Si Hua was roughly untied and dragged, barely conscious, to a smaller courtyard where the punishment platform stood. He was placed face down, the fresh gash on his back exposed. The first strike of the heavy bamboo rod was a deafening sound. With each agonizing strike, 1, 2, 3, the bamboo tore at Si Hua's already broken skin. His body convulsed, but he was too far gone to cry out again. In his study, Li Junting stood at his window listening. He counted every strike. With each crack, a spasm of pain crossed his features, though he allowed no sound to escape. He saw again the image of Si Hua's dark, terrified, yet defiant eyes, and he saw his own hand roughly pushing the boy away. The strikes felt like they were tearing at the prince's own heart, and he clenched his fists so tightly the tips of his fingers bled slightly into his palm. At the 17th strike, Si Hua's breath hitched, and his consciousness finally surrendered. He lay still, a heap of bloodied silk and rope, finally silent. The prince turned instantly from the window, the count hanging unfinished in the air. The Si estate in Xianyang was a testament to the family's unique standing. Its walls were high and meticulously maintained, a clear reflection of the immense wealth accumulated by Mr. Si, the empire's wealthiest textile merchant. Within the courtyards, however, a sense of refined, ancient grace prevailed, inherited from his wife's lineage. A noble bloodline that ensured the family was respected in elite circles, despite their lack of a true imperial title. Inside these walls lived the twins, Si Hua and Si Mei, two halves of a fractured whole. Si Hua, the elder by a scant hour, was a soul carved from quiet discipline. Tall and composed, his elegance was not a show of wealth but an innate grace. He was a creature of refined arts. The gentle, mournful strains of the traditional Chinese violin eru were his solace, and his nights were often spent mastering the precise, fluid strokes of calligraphy or capturing the delicate stillness of a garden scene in ink on rice paper. He was thoughtful, introspective, and bore the weight of his family's respectability with silent diligence. Si Mei, his younger twin, was his complete opposite, a restless, vibrant force of nature. She possessed a terrifying beauty and a spirit untouched by caution. She was often frivolous, demanding, and dangerously impulsive. Their father, a man constantly vexed by the contradiction between his noble wife and his free-spirited daughter, was perpetually angry, his booming voice often directed at the maids, warning them to keep a relentless eye on her. Si Hua's greatest strength, and his most profound weakness, was this very girl. The summer sun, already high and oppressive, pressed against the estate walls. Si Hua sat in his private study, the air thick with the scent of aged ink and sandalwood, attempting to focus on a new piece of landscape painting. The rhythmic thump-thump of his heart, however, was already distracted, anticipating the inevitable intrusion. It came not as a shout, but as a soft, insistent whisper, followed by the rustle of fine lavender silk. "Brother?" Sime murmured, tugging lightly but insistently at the sleeve of his dark silk robe. "It is the great market day. The silks, the new fragrant oils, the specialized paintbrushes. I simply must have them. I need you to take me." Si Hua sighed, setting down his brush with painstaking care. "May, you know father's rules. The streets are not safe, and you bought enough goods last week to supply a small town for a year. You are being watched. They are watching the walls, not you," she countered, her voice dropping to that irresistibly pleading tone that melted his resolve. Her delicate fingers continued to tug, a relentless, tiny pressure. "Please, Hua, just this once. I saw a hairpin, jade, and amethyst. It is exactly the color of your ink wash. I must buy it for you, and I need to see the outside world again." He looked at her luminous, hopeful face. Her endless, unnecessary buying was simply a byproduct of her boundless, pent-up energy, caged by the life she was expected to live. She knew he couldn't refuse. She was his weakness. "And the crown prince may?" he asked, his voice low and serious. "Is that what this is truly about?" Her eyes flashed, confirming his fear. Her obsession with the prince, a figure so far above their station, reached Si Hua's heart like a cold spear. As an artist who studied human nature and history, Si Hua knew the world of royalty was a coiled viper, full of politics, betrayal, and bloodshed. He didn't want his sister there. She was too innocent and carefree for that kind of world. The crown prince was a gilded cage, and Si Mei was a bird destined for the sky. "He is poetry and power made manifest," she whispered, intoxicated. Si Hua closed his eyes momentarily. "Very well," he conceded, gathering his composure and already planning how to distract the maids. "But you stay within arm's reach, you buy only what is necessary, and you do not, under any circumstances, stop the royal procession." Si Mei laughed, a bright, triumphant sound, and tugged him out of the study. That is how they ended up in the market. The summer sun hung heavy over the bustling streets of Xianyang. Amid the chaos, the siblings wove carefully, Si Hua weighed down by her endless stream of purchases. And then, as destiny would have it, the crowd parted. A royal carriage approaches. Si Mei froze, her eyes alight, and then, without a single thought, she stepped deliberately, unwavering, into the path of the royal procession. The soldier nearest her roared, his spear raised. Si Hua's heart seized with terror. "Mei, step aside," he bellowed, thrusting his own body in front of hers to shield her. The shaft of the soldier's weapon struck Si Hua's back with a sickening crack. Warm blood immediately began to seep through the crimson silk beneath his robe. The massive carriage slowed. The figure within, the crown prince, leaned slightly from the window, commanding absolute stillness. The crown prince was not merely handsome. He was a devastating, lethal vision of imperial power. Li Junting was strikingly tall even as he sat, possessing a slender and commanding frame that hinted at martial strength beneath the heavy, dark silks of his robes. His features were defined by harsh, chiseled perfection. A clean, severe jawline and high cheekbones that gave his face a formidable, ruthless quality. His skin was smooth and fair, the pale hue of refined nobility, yet it lacked the soft, fragile quality of Si Hua's own pallor. His hair, black as night, framed eyes that were the deepest, most absolute obsidian Si Hua had ever encountered, fathomless pools that held the cold, calculating intelligence of a true sovereign. He was an intimidating, flawless masterpiece of manhood, the very epicenter of dangerous, unapproachable beauty. The prince saw the blood, the composure beneath the fear, and the elegance of the man's bowed neck. A sudden, visceral jolt, a dizzying, shocking wave of possessive fixation, struck him. Li Junting instantly rejected the feeling. The very thought of desiring a man was disgusting, a flaw that had to be buried and punished immediately. He rationalized the strange pull as simple territorial anger. This man must be protecting something, the girl, that the prince himself should rightfully control. He concluded Si Hua was protecting his fiercely desired intended bride, Si Mei. A spark of cold, arrogant, and deeply repressed possession flashed in the prince's dark gaze. "Your name," he demanded, his voice carrying the weight of the imperial palace. "Si Hua, Your Highness," he managed, the pain stealing his breath. The prince reached down. His fingers, long and elegant, closed on Si Hua's chin, lifting it gently, yet with an undeniable, sharp force. "And is this what is yours, then?" the prince demanded, his voice low, a silken sneer of challenge. Without waiting for a response, he used his grip on Si Hua's chin to shove the young man's head back a fraction. A clear, humiliating assertion of dominance, a way to mentally lash out at the source of his own repulsive sensation. Si Hua looked into the crown prince's eyes and felt the world tilt. The sheer, possessive arrogance in the prince's gaze was unmistakable. He felt a shiver run down his spine, a profound electric current that was part terror, part breathtaking, bewildering recognition of the prince's powerful, brutal authority. He was acutely aware only of the intense sandalwood scent, the warmth of the princely fingers against his skin, and the dizzying, profound realization that this man, this symbol of lethal power, was fixated on his sister, and was only confronting him because he dared to possess her first. "Next time, keep what is yours from causing trouble on the common streets, Si Hua," the crown prince said, his tone lethal, yet strangely intimate. "The next time she may not be so fortunate. You are responsible for what is yours." The prince released Si Hua's chin, the rough touch leaving behind a throbbing awareness. The carriage began to glide forward. Si Hua stumbled back, clutching his sister. He knew this was more than a warning. It was a branding. He was now marked by a powerful man who coveted what he held dear. His sister. By the time they reached the Si estate, Si Hua was faint. Si Mei tended to his wound, her guilt battling her triumph. "Better me than you," he replied quietly. As night fell, Si Mei produced the heavy, fine jade pendant she had snatched from the carriage's railing. A coiling imperial dragon. "I shall return it, brother, and he will have no choice but to forgive me," she declared. Si Hua knew the danger. The pendant was a symbol of theft, and his sister's appearance at the palace would only confirm the prince's misunderstanding. Later, when she slept, he carefully removed the cool, smooth jade pendant and placed it deep within the secured folds of his own robe. "If you wish to dream, little sister, then dream in peace," he whispered, the weight of the jade pressing against the wound on his back. "But I will carry the full burden for you, and face his mistaken wrath in your place." The following day, well before dawn, Si Hua moved with deliberate, steady steps toward the massive, black iron gates of the imperial palace. The jade pendant, cool and heavy, was against his chest. He stood before the threshold and called out, his voice echoing against the ancient stone. "I am Si Hua of the Si family. I have come to return the crown prince's imperial seal." Instantly, bows were drawn, arrows knocked, but before the fatal command could be given, a single silver-tipped arrow streaked through the air from the high battlements, burying its head into the stone right at his feet. A clear, chilling signal of protection and command. A profound silence descended. Si Hua stared at the arrow. He knew the prince was expecting the girl, his assumed fiancée. He was walking in to reveal the truth, knowing full well the powerful, arrogant man waiting for him would not take kindly to the deception, accidental though it was. He inhaled the cold morning air, his mind sharp, his heart beating a fast, nervous rhythm.